Good evening, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the show that I love, Disney Dialogues. It's going to be a fun night tonight. Jen is under the weather tonight, so she will not be joining me, so I'll be running this one. My voice is still a little shot from last night when I had a little bit of coughing going on the broadcast. So, as they say, the show must go on, especially when you get the opportunity to interview one of the most amazing Disney legends there could be, and also sit for a few minutes and talk with a Disney author, a Disney historian, a Disney gentleman who has done, after you listen tonight, a little bit of everything. These two people create the magic. They're close friends, and I'm so glad to have them here tonight. So get your questions into the chat. I'll get to them as much as I can. That's my promise to you tonight. Tell somebody about the show going on. I know a lot of you are watching on the replay. We get a lot of replays on this the following 2 days after our show. So everybody in the replay, please leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. And if it's a question for our guest, I can reach out to them and try to get an answer for that and follow up on your comment on the video after the fact. Let's talk a little bit about the introduction for our guest tonight. And I kind of want to share with you all a couple things here as we go along. Our two incredible guests tonight have the achievements so extensive that their resumes read like a best-selling novel. Each accomplishment building on a legacy of excellence and inspiration. It's incredible. Martha Blanding stands as a true trailblazer in Disney history, starting at Disneyland in 1971, officially retiring in 2002 after a 50-year career. Amazing. She was acknowledged as the first Black woman to achieve 50 years of service within the Walt Disney Company, a career that broke barriers at every step. She became the company's first Black full-time tour guide, the first Black woman in a management role, the first Black woman female merchandise buyer. Her incredible fortitude, dedication, and pioneering spirit have paved the way for countless others, and secured her place as a living legend within the Disney family. One thing I can say as a subnote to this is I did my interviews. I love the fact that everybody just talked about Martha as a Disney legend and who she was. And that's an amazing factor. I love that. Tim started at Disneyland in 1976, and he's worked in or contributed to over 10 Disney business segments. Wow. Through the consultant and leadership positions over the past 49 years. Martha and Tim have been friends for over 35 years. Trust me, I could see that as I sat for a few minutes with them before the show. Martha became a Disney legend in the company of actors like Harrison Ford, Angela Bassett, Jamie Lee Curtis, Miley Cyrus, John Williams, Muppets co-creator Frank Oz. Listen to those names, everybody, and including Disney animator Mark Henn and Imagineer Joe Rohde. I mean, my word, amazing. Tim was recognized with the Walt Disney Archives twice. He's recognized by them in 2010 and 25 as an archive angel. We're going to hear about that tonight for his significant contributions to the Disney legacy by supporting the archives in the efforts to preserve the magic of the Walt Disney Company. You guys all know how I feel about the archives. I'm passionate about that. I love having Tim here to talk about that. Martha co-founded Pulse, which, if those of you that are not familiar with that, it's a business employee resource group for Black Disneyland cast members when she served as a trusted mentor to many of her colleagues. In May of 2025, Tim, along with the head of D23, Michael Vargo, Tim received the Disney Legend Award from the National Disneyana Fan Club. And Tim is featured on all of the seasons to date of Behind the Attractions on Disney Plus. You guys have heard me talk about that many, many times on this channel. Tim is an on-site PR leader representing the Walt Disney Imagineering during the 20th anniversary celebration of Walt Disney World Resort and the final construction phases and grand opening of Disneyland Paris Resort. Nick and Claire and I were talking about that just the other day and how amazing everything with Paris is over there. Over the course of the remarkable careers, Martha and Tim have shared interactions with some of the most iconic names in Disney history. Now, this is where I said get ready, because this is where hairs stand up on my neck and my back. We're talking about names like Marty Sklar, Dick Nunes, Julie Andrews, John Hench, Frank Thomas, and Ollie Johnson. We've talked about all those names on this channel over time. It gets better during the interview, trust me. Additionally, Tim's journey included personal interactions with legendary figures himself, such as Herb Ryman, Dick Van Dyke, Tony Baxter, and even Roy E. Disney himself. As noted when I begun this extensive list of achievements, we could easily keep going all night, but we have so much more we want to discuss with our guests tonight, including their incredible book, which you're going to find out about tonight. We're going to give you the information. Moderators will be dropping the links all night for you to grab that book, and I encourage you to do so. You will not go wrong. It's another incredible Disney read. So with that, let's transition and welcome these two amazing people. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to join our show tonight for Disney Dialogues, it is Disney legend Martha Blanding and Archives angel Tim O'Day. Welcome in, Tim and Martha. Good to see you. Thank you for being here tonight. Martha, I hope he wasn't
Yeah,
being, I hope he was being good backstage. I hope things weren't going crazy.
well, it's kind of hard when when you're close to him. He's a troublemaker,
That's true.
constant troublemaker.
How are you this evening? Thank you for joining us here on Dialogues.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
We can't wait to get to your story and talk to you. Tim, thank you for introducing me to Martha and for coming here tonight so we can learn a little bit more about you because I think I'm hoping my guests are going to see a lot more of you in the future with our channel and things that we're doing.
Well, I have to say that when you said I was an angel, Martha just shook her head. She just did this. She was just shaking her head when you said I was an angel.
I love it. I love the interaction between you two. I can tell 35 plus years of friendship is there. And also,
35 long, long years.
the
It,
funny thing
it,
is, well, the funny thing is, he says that now, but I can tell everyone that when I talked with Tim first and started idea and laying tonight out, Tim spoke with you with the utmost respect and love that I've seen. So you can't hide behind that, Tim. I know the truth there, buddy, on that. So let's
what's
You
start.
weren't
wrong?
supposed to say anything.
What's
I'm
wrong with
sorry. I love it. I love it. Well, let's start tonight with just before we get into my questions and everything. Let's start with just a simple interview standard as we do the introduction. Just a little bit about you that you'd like to share to our audience. You kind of know where we're going to go tonight and talk, but I'd love them to hear from you first. So, Martha, if you'd be so kind, just a little introduction.
Well, my name is Martha Blanding, and I started at Disneyland in 1971.
Wow.
And don't try to add up how old I am. I'm still young.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
And I have, in my 50 years that I worked for the Walt Disney Company, all of them were very good years. I enjoyed every moment. The bad moments I learned from, and the good moments I enjoyed. And I, in the beginning, I kind of wondered, how did I get so lucky to work for the Walt Disney Company?
Right.
And I realized that I was there for a reason. Now, when I first working at Disneyland wasn't a place that I wanted to work because I was going to school to be an elementary school teacher, and that's what I wanted to
Wow.
do.
Okay.
But I wanted to make money to help my parents pay for my college tuition, and I had heard that many other students from Cal State was going over to the park to get a job, and I thought I would go and try to get one also. And that's how I started working at Disneyland, and I've enjoyed all of it.
I love it. I love that. And as we say many times, thank you for being a cast member. We trailblazers and cast members. Uh, that's a unique two titles to put together. But I think when everybody hears your story tonight, they're going to see why Disney recognized you as a Disney legend. I'm excited to tell that story. Tim,
Thank you.
how about a little welcome for you to everybody that's listening tonight?
Well, I have to correct something, Pete.
Mm.
Now that you've met Martha, you're friends with Martha, and we have to get her name correct. So if you know Martha, it's not just Martha Blanding.
Oh, okay.
Let me let you in on a little secret.
Oh boy.
Here
So
we go.
before Martha became a Disney legend, and after the book came out, or was no, it was before the book came out. We went on the DVC cruise in the Mediterranean, and we did a couple of presentations together. And I told the audience how to correctly say her name.
Okay.
And at Disneyland, she's known as Martha B. Now there's an exclamation point on the end of that. So you have to enunciate the exclamation point. So you don't just say Martha B, you say Martha B. And
Okay.
so I got 600 people in both the combined shows yelling Martha B, to the point where we're in the Barcelona airport waiting for our flights, and a few people who'd been on the cruise with us shouted across the Esplanade, across the entire expanse of the airport, Martha B. She loved me after that.
I can see that in her face today.
After and every time someone did that and we were together, especially at the airport, I looked at him and I said, I'm going to kill you, Tim O'Day.
Well, Martha, we have that in common because when he brought up that I had your name wrong, I'm thinking, oh my God, what did I do?
It's funny.
I started looking at everything I had here. I was like, oh, I hope I didn't do that. Well, I love that story. I love that there's interaction between you guys, and we're going to hear more about that as we go through. Let's go over here, Martha. Let's go to you first. You were one of the co-founders of the official Disneyana convention. That, for the people that don't know, is the forerunner to what we now know as the D23 Expo. I have some of the original pins and graphics in there from the
Wow.
years of doing that, as everybody can see right now for everybody's reference. Can you share with us the story behind and the pride you must feel in knowing that that convention that you created has grown into one of Disney's most beloved events?
Well, we knew how there were a lot of people that love Disney, that love Disneyland,
Mm-hmm.
and they wanted to be able to go to something that was strictly Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And so we put our heads together and decided to create the Disneyana convention. Now, the convention itself, home base was Walt Disney World. So that meant that, and then we held the convention at Disneyland a couple of times, but the majority of the time it was in Walt Disney World. So that meant that I had to go to Florida every year to do my part when it
Mm-hmm.
was time to have the convention. But it was so interesting and so neat to see all of these Disney collectors coming in and enjoying all the different activities that we created for them to have. And honestly, when we were putting the events together, we would put them together and tear them apart, put it back together and tear it apart,
Wow.
go back to the end, come from the end of our itinerary and work our way up, and start at the beginning and work our way down, because we wanted our guests to really have an extraordinary experience, and they did. And
Absolutely.
it's really we soon outgrew Walt Disney World, where we were having the event, and Disneyland. And we had done it for so long, it was time for a rehab. It was time to reinvent it. And then they reinvented it to D23, to what it is right now. It's amazing that it started with Disneyana Convention in Walt Disney World.
I would agree, Tim. I'll throw over to you for a second. I know you have a lot of interaction through your career and time with D23. It's got to give you a really sense of pride to know it's one of your most trusted friends on this earth that helped to create where this evolved from.
Yeah, Martha and I worked on the Disneyana convention, many of them together, and it was really fun because it was new. Nobody had ever
Hmm.
done it before. So to attend those, it was pretty neat because everyone was different. Everyone had a theme, and it was the first time that thanks to Martha and others, they brought together a lot of the Disney legends,
Hmm.
and it was the first time the public really got to see them together. So Martha was really instrumental in bringing the Mouseketeers together, and Fess Parker, and
Oh,
people like that, and it was amazing.
yeah, that's incredible. And to think about now how D23 is, it sells out in less than a minute. I think it was under a minute last year, last time they did it,
Yeah.
that they do, and the people stand in lines. Heck, I was at home here for the last couple ones, sitting, listening to any bit of information that I could get out of it, because you do, and it's a great thing. I love that, and I'm so excited to talk to you about that. Well,
And
let's.
the other, other
Yes, ma'am.
interesting thing,
Hmm.
and the other interesting thing was the Disneyana convention, like D23,
Hmm.
sold out immediately.
I love it.
It's sold
Yeah.
I
every
love
year.
it. You all were such visionaries to be able to see the insight of what this could be and what it has come to. And I still don't think we've seen the heights that it's going to go to. I still think there's more to come, even on higher levels than it is. And it's a tribute to go back to that first pin down in the left hand corner where the first one that came. If you have that, you have a true piece of history. When I was
Yes,
looking
you
at them online, so that's pretty
Yeah.
awesome. All right, let's go over, and I want to talk, Tim, with you for a minute to start. If you take a minute to talk with, talk about mentors and the important role they play. Would you share a moment or two about the mentors who guided you along the way, who kind of helped you reach the success that you've both achieved? And for Martha, following Tim, when he gets done, I'd love to hear from you as well for the mentors that impacted your journey and the ways that they helped shape your success. Tim?
So you're talking professional mentors, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
So
it could be personal too as well.
yeah,
If you want to.
professionally, I wanted to be a PR person. That's what I
Hmm.
wanted to be. And so I had a lot of mentors. There was a fellow by the name of Bob Roth, who was the manager of PR at Disneyland.
Hmm.
And he was grace under pressure, man. He was a great example of that. And then Jack Lindquist, the Disney legend Jack Lindquist. I worked for Jack, and Jack was, oh, we used to call him the elf, because he was and Martha can attest, he was this little imp, and he was always jolly. I never saw Jack in a bad mood, and he became the first president of Disneyland. And he just came up with crazy, crazy ideas, that you just thought we can't do that, and then you ended up doing it. And then Marty Sklar was another mentor, because Marty, he was Walt's publicist, he was Walt's
Yeah.
speechwriter,
Hmm.
um, and so Marty really helped me hone my writing, actually,
Wow.
and the fact that I'm so detailed in the writing is thanks to Marty.
I love
And
that.
there are a few others. There was I think those were the main ones, though.
Okay.
There was Irwin Oken. There was a fellow by the name of Irwin Oken, who was the head of communications for the entire Walt Disney Company, and he was like your uncle, and he was so smooth with the media and with guests, and he worked a great deal, very closely with Michael Eisner and Frank Wells and everything. And
Right.
Irwin, I spent a lot of time with Irwin over at Disneyland Paris, and he was terrific. So those were my mentors.
I love hearing those. And if you're listening to our guest tonight, and it's a name you might not be familiar with, it Google it real quick. You'll be shocked at what the impact that these names had on the history of Disney. Martha, how about you? How about some inspirations for you?
Well, you know what? My main inspiration was my mother and my Aunt Ella,
I love
and they
that.
were very hardworking women. And if I could be half the woman that they were, I am very happy
I
because I
love hearing
learned a
that.
lot. I learned a lot from the both of them. And you have to understand that when I first started working at Disneyland, the park was only 16 years old. There were not a lot of black people there at all.
No, man.
Very few in the park. So I didn't have someone that looked like me that I could look up to.
Yes.
But I did have an ally, and her name was Lois Fulmer. When I
Okay.
went into the booking office, I accepted a position. They decided that they wanted to hire replace another person in another position.
Uh
Instead
huh.
of going on the outside, they decided that they wanted to promote someone from the inside and then teach them. And I was their first person to be a part of this program. It's interesting. After me, they didn't do it anymore. I don't understand why though. But I went into management
Uh huh.
and, and merchandise, and I was also a buyer. And I had to do both of these positions. So I had to help run the emporium. I wasn't by myself. It was a team.
Okay.
But then I also had to work as a buyer. So they put me with two different buyers to train me, but neither one of them were teachers. They
Oh.
were good buyers. but they were not teachers.
Right.
So I wasn't learning anything. So I ended up in a position where I got called in and told that I had to turn things around or find me another job.
Oh,
So they placed me with Lois Fulmer. And we talked. And the first thing she said to me was, Martha, I want you to turn your desk around so you can face me. I can see you and you can see me. If you have any questions, you just have to look up and ask me. If I have anything I want to say to you, I just have to look up and say it.
very
It
direct.
made
Wow.
very direct, but it made such a huge difference. I caught on real fast. I didn't know anything about being a buyer. I just needed someone to help me, teach me.
Right.
Boy, did he. So by the end of the, and I was doing both jobs, supervisor in the emporium and a buyer in the buying office. By the end of the summer, my director called me in. He said, I don't know what you did, but you did a 360 to the good, not to the bad, to the good. And he says, you're amazing. And I was burning fires, burning my candle at both ends, but I did it. I don't like when people to tell me that I can't do something that I know I could do. But if it wasn't for Lois, I never would have made it.
I
And
love
so
for that. I love that.
she is another one of my mentors. But a lot of things I learned on my own and I taught myself. And then
I love that persistence. Wow.
because of that, I make myself available to be mentoring others. And I do it. I did it while I was working, and I'm still doing it now after I retire.
I have heard that about you, and that's some of the special comments that I've read is that your passion to teach others what you know hasn't changed because you retired. You're still an amazing influence in a lot of lives. It says a blessing to. It says a lot about you and your character, and obviously, and I think that's great. It's amazing. Let's continue on. And we did have a real nice comment there. Neil said there's incredible history on this screen. Well, thank you, Neil, for that nice comment about our guest here tonight.
Wait a minute, hold it. Is Neil saying we're old? Is that what he's
No,
saying?
no, he is not at all. Not Tim. Don't make me have Martha put you into corner and keep quiet there. Martha,
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about during your time as a VIP hostess with Disney. You've had the incredible opportunity to interact with musical icons like Diana Ross, Cher, and Elton John, as well as Hollywood royalty like Cary Grant, Rock Hudson, and Bob Hope. What did it mean to you personally to serve as a liaison between a company you love so much in Walt Disney and his magical world and these legendary celebrities visiting the park?
Well, they were my favorites also, personally. And so to be able to be a VIP hostess, which meant that you were with them all day as
Right.
long as they were there. And you were communicating with them and talking to them and explaining things to them and taking them on attractions. Now, as a cast member, we weren't supposed to show our excitement about my favorite celebrity is Rock Hudson or Cary Grant. I had to always maintain my professionalism.
Right.
I maintained it, okay? But in my head was a totally different story because when Cicely called myself and my friend Kathy Murphy in to
Uh-huh.
tell us that we were going to have Rock Cary Grant for the candlelight ceremony, in my head, I'm going, oh my God, Cary Grant, I can't believe it. I'm going to have Cary Grant. I love Cary Grant. But outside,
Outside.
I'm looking at Cicely and I'm going, okay, yes, I can do it. We can do it. We'll be fine. Very professional, okay?
Yes.
Then when we went to the lockers, we just flipped out, okay? Because we were so excited. So it was wonderful to meet them. And a lot of people think that they're different or that they're arrogant or mean. But honestly, Cary Grant, Rock Hudson, Cher, Elton John, Diana Ross, what you saw is what you got. And they were all very nice. And we spent enough time with them that we could have seen the other side of them. And
Hmm.
everybody has more than one side, okay? So let's just get that straight. Everybody does. Well, I don't. I'm the same all the time. But but they were all so very nice and very accommodating, and just really enjoyed being there and being in a company. And actually, Cary Grant and Elton John, they came back again, and both of them asked for me again to be their
Oh,
PR
that's
director.
a heck of a compliment right there.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
it was quite a wonderful experience, and I have all of these great stories to tell about them. It was really neat.
It's I guess the most blessed gift that you have from that is those memories that you have that you can cherish and fall back on at any point. And that's a library of memories that is just spectacular. I think
Right,
that's incredible. Absolutely
right.
incredible. Okay, cool. Well, speaking of big names, we're going to talk about the next segment here. I want to talk with you and Tim about is as I mentioned earlier in the introductions, the list of legendary individuals that you both have worked with to help create Disney magic is truly just incredible. It's the only word I can come up with it. Tim, if you would start, and then I'll go over to Martha. Just elaborate on your experiences, and I can't believe I'm even saying this. You had the chance to interact with Disney icons Mark and Alice Davis. Incredible. And as well as I have goosebumps just saying this. Richard and Robert Sherman. I can't wait to hear a little bit about this. Would you be kind to share, Tim?
Sure. Well, uh, Richard and Robert, I met them early 90s, I believe. And I was a huge fan of the Disney films, especially the ones they provided the music with. So it was kind of a pinch me moment to meet them. But they were so laid back, so easy, and they were a little bit like oil and water. You know, Robert Robert had a great sense of humor, but it was kind of a dry sense of humor, whereas Richard was a little more flamboyant. His favorite comedians were Monty Python. He
Oh
loved
wow.
Monty Python,
Okay.
whereas
Wow.
Robert was a little more subdued. But working with them both was terrific. And then later on, after Robert sadly passed away, I worked, directly with Richard on many, many, many events. And Richard, he was kind of like my honorary grandfather a little bit. And well, we had many, many adventures together, especially down at Walt Disney World during, the Disneyana conventions and things like
Hmm.
that. And his wife Elizabeth, God bless her, she's just a little bitty thing, and just the most charming people. And we one thing I'm most proud of is that when Richard turned 90, we were able to do a salute to him at the Motion Picture Academy,
Hmm.
and he was able to be there. And at that time, he was having a little small health issue, and we weren't sure that it would be okay for him to perform. And at the end of the show, there was no stopping him. He just bounded up there and did his thing. And what's funny about Richard is he never used sheet music ever. He
Really?
had it all up here. No, ever, ever, ever. And the only one time that he ever flubbed the line was we were doing a big concert for D23, and he was singing the Winnie the Pooh song, and he sang Winnie the Pooh, Willie, and he blanked. And I said, Nilly. And he goes, that's it, Nilly. And then he continued. But it was the only time in, 20 years, 25 years that we did that together that he ever blew a line. He just kind of blanked. But Richard was great. And then Mark and Alice, oh my gosh, Martha had a great relationship with them too. Mark just cracked me up. He was so smart, but also another dry sense of humor.
Hmm.
And Mark had never met a sentence with a period on it that he ever liked because he would sit back. Martha knows this. He would sit back with his hands on his Buddha belly, and he would tell these stories, and he never stopped. It was like, well, as I say, and it just kept going. And one of the funniest things that happened with Mark, one day I went over to see him, and it was after lunch, and I walked in and at their house, and he was watching Alice in Wonderland. I said, Mark, well, what are you doing? He goes, oh, no, it's about to end. Let me watch this. So we're watching like the last 20 minutes of Alice in Wonderland. And, when the film came out, Walt said, well, it wasn't a big hit. And maybe it was because Alice didn't have any heart. And the the animators kind of followed that through the years. They were like, Alice was just, so so. And when the movie was over, Mark looks at me and goes, "That's a pretty damn good movie, isn't it?" And I said, "Yes, it is."
Wow.
So yeah, he was great. Mark was he was terrific.
Thank you for sharing those. Martha, I'll go to you. I don't think we could tell the story of Disney without the Sherman brothers and without Mark and Alice and what they were. Could you share a little bit of your memories?
I worked with all of them. And the thing that amazed me about Richard Sherman is that when he met you,
Hmm.
he didn't forget.
Really?
And we were in Walt Disney World, and that was the first time. My sister was with me at
Okay.
the Disneyana convention, and it was the first time that Richard met my sister.
Okay.
But after that, every time he saw me, he would always say, "How's Mary? How's your sister Mary doing?" And it wasn't like, "Well, I need to do this." It was as if he knew her for a long time, which I thought was so neat.
Yeah.
And he was such a wonderful man, and so was Elizabeth. I didn't work with Robert as much as I did with Richard.
Okay.
I only worked with Robert just on rare occasions, but I did a lot with Richard, and he was one of my favorites, and he was an amazing man. And he just his character about him, his sense of humor, the way he talked to people, just it stood out, and he was wonderful. Now, Mark and Alice, that's a whole different story.
Oh boy.
Mark and we had such a wonderful relationship,
Okay.
and I, I, I think about Alice almost every day. She was like an older sister, big sister,
Hmm.
to me, and she would tell people that she was my big sister, and she also called me her Black Beauty. Is what she called me, and she was just an amazing woman. Alice was a designer and a seamstress. I'm a seamstress as well, and
Oh,
so we would have conversations about sewing, and then she would teach me some things or show me some things, which I truly appreciate. And Mark and Alice never told me no. Whenever
oh,
I asked them to do an event, they always said yes. They even would change their schedule in order
wow.
to do what I asked them to do. When Mark passed away, I was very taken by it to the point where my boss wanted to send me home when Mark passed away. But I told him I don't want to go home because I don't think that Mark would want me to go home and cry. I think that he would want me to continue doing what I was doing. And so I did. I stayed there. Um, and when Alice passed away, it was very hard on me also because we were very close. And I got the telephone call about her, and it just broke my heart. And they they were amazing. They were wonderful. And normally, when I did an event, I would ask that the spouse sit to the side, but
Hmm.
not be at the table with that particular person.
Hmm.
But with Mark and Alice, I would always have them at the table together because she was just as popular as he. And if I
Absolutely.
put her else, I would have a crowd of people on one side and a crowd of people on the other side. So I said, instead of doing that, just put them together and let the crowd be together. It was easier to manage that way.
I
But they
love
were
it.
two amazing people, amazing people.
I
You
really
know,
thank. Go ahead, Tim, please.
just real quick, Mark had they were also kind of mischievous, and Mark had a wicked sense of humor to the point where he almost gave me a heart attack one time because I took them to Disneyland Paris one year, and Mark, it's a lot of walking. So Mark was in a wheelchair. It's not that Mark couldn't get around. It was a lot of walking.
Right.
And we we approached Phantom Manor, and knowing that they had changed the thematics of it, I said to Mark, now Mark, just be understanding. They had to change the mansion for cultural reasons and things like that. He's like, what do you mean? And so I said, well, it's right over there. And he saw it. And he and Alice were like, oh my, and I could tell that something was up between them. They were like, oh my gosh, look what they've done, you know. And then we got on the attraction, and I'm sitting between the two of them in the doom buggy, and the whole time I'm thinking, oh my gosh. And I told them, after this, we're going to see Philippe Bourguignon, the president of Disneyland Paris, and the Disneyland Paris ambassador, you know, and they're so excited to see you. So we're on the attraction, and in each ear, I'm getting an earful about how much they didn't like the attraction.
Oh boy.
And we're going through, and I'm just wanting to melt in the dune buggy, thinking, "Oh my gosh, what are they going to say to Philippe and the ambassador? They evidently don't like this." And when we got out, we met the ambassador and Philippe in the little graveyard outside, and they come over and Madame Davis, Monsieur Davis, what do you think of La Phantom Manor? They went, it was great, we loved it. They were just pulling my leg. They didn't. They liked it. They didn't dislike it. They were just yanking my chain.
I love
But
I
that's the
love
way they
that
were.
story. Well, and I
Yeah.
really appreciate your time just on that question, because when I was going through and doing the preparation for this interview, these are four people that when I get asked all the time, oh, you interview these Imagineers, you interview these authors, you interview these artists. What is who is the ones that you would want to do? And everybody thinks I would go to Walt and Roy, and of course. Who wouldn't want to talk to Walt or Roy E. or any of those gentlemen? But when I look at the history of Disney, I look at the Raleigh Crumps, the Marty Sklar's, the Davises. I look at the Sherman Brothers because, and here's my goosebumps going again. You just can't tell the story of what Disney is today without the imprints that they've left. So for you all to share a little bit of them, that just made my night. So thank you for that very much.
Mhm.
Uh, Martha, I want to go over and talk to you. From your time in Disneyland when you were hired back in 1971, as you noted through your retirement, Disney and Disneyland have gone through tremendous changes. From your perspective, what are some of the most significant enhancements to guest experience that you feel Walt himself would be proud of today as examples of how the company has continued to plus up, as Walt used to say, his initial vision?
Well, I think that, Disneyland, when I think of Disneyland, I think of family.
Okay.
And I also think of um, people getting along no matter what color you are
Mm-hmm.
or ethnic group you belong to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's a big thing because I think that Disney has made a big accomplishment, especially in that area.
Great to hear.
And also now, I remember once that I went to a journalism conference. They sent me to a conference to
Mm-hmm.
do a presentation, and I had to say a little speech before. And when I finished talking, of course, they had questions and answers.
Mm-hmm.
And so people were asking me, how can you black work at Disneyland? Are they treating you right? Are they treating you fairly? Yeah, Disney was created by Walt Disney and the Nine Old Men, and they were all
Correct.
white at the
Correct.
very beginning. And so you got to realize they went through transitions
Mm-hmm.
to get to where they are, and it's a huge company, so they can't do it overnight. It took time, and I think that the time that they're taking, and they do have more to do. I think that they have accomplished a lot
Okay.
because when I first started working there were hardly any black executives or any black managers or directors or VPs
Mm-hmm.
or now,
Yes.
and that makes me very happy. That's a
I mean,
wonderful accomplishment. And
that,
I
that's,
think that with the attractions and Disney's California Adventures and downtown Disney and the shops that we have in there, that change has been wonderful because I remember when it was that big parking lot of cars at Disneyland, and that's it,
right.
and the hotels across the street. And now look at what you have. And I
Yes.
think it's wonderful. It's a change, and you're able to and you're able to experience so much, you know, and that small amount. Our property compared to Walt Disney World is small, but
Right.
you experience so much, and it's wonderful. Nobody is perfect, so I'm not saying that Disney is perfect. They make mistakes also, but they've also have accomplished a lot as well.
I love it. Okay. It's a great answer. And coming from you, I couldn't think of a better source who has seen so much of it through the years. Just a quick thing before I go over to Tim on this next question. You met James Earl Jones, somebody that I absolutely love. I love
Me
this
too.
picture. I love this picture. I would,
I
oh, iconic.
This picture was when he came to do candlelight at Disneyland,
Very nice.
and so I ran into him backstage, and I introduced myself, and so I also said to him, he was on my bucket list of celebrities to meet. And so I said to him, I said, Cary Grant was here a few years ago to do the candlelight ceremony, exactly what he was doing. He says, "Oh, really?" He goes, "We're very good friends." I said, "I know you are." And he says, "You'll have to tell me who was the best."
Oh, my
And I said,
Lord.
so he did the candlelight ceremony. And so I was standing by the door that he had to go into to come off stage. And he looked at me and he said, "Well," I said, "I love me some Cary Grant, but you got it." He
His
is that voice. His voice just wipes out any other voice in the world because it was just so amazing, just so great, just the
beautifully
enunciation.
smooth. Yes.
Yes.
So
I said that he was the best.
I broadcast baseball on here, and I went and got his small part from that he read from Field of Dreams when he's talking about
Yes,
baseball, and I play that on every stream.
yes,
He's one of my actor heroes that I just love from his story, from where he came from to where he became, and again, iconic. And for everybody also that's watching live on the broadcast from the replay, these are pictures down below of Martha during her time at Disney. She was Tim and Martha were kind enough to share some great pictures. So along the way, so you know what we're talking about here. Love that. We could sit here and talk with Martha and Tim all night. This is awesome. Well, Tim, I'm going to come to you, and God, we're going to talk about two topics here that if you're any bit of Disney history, here goes my goosebumps every time. If you're any bit of Disney history, you're going to love this next question. Over the years, you've had the chance to work alongside some truly impactful people like we talked about tonight, and unforgettable Disney history people. Tonight, could you share with us just a small port of your interaction with Ray Bradbury on the Halloween tree at Disneyland? And then I'm going to follow that up with Michael Eisner on the return of the Wonderful World of Disney, and what those projects meant to you personally.
Sure, sure. Well, Ray, I got to know in the late 90s, early 2000s, and just a great guy, just terrific. You would think that an author with so much success would have a little bit of an attitude or anything. Could be further from the truth. Just the nicest guy. And I don't know how it came about, but we ended up having lunch at Storytellers Cafe.
Okay.
And I know how it came about because I asked Ray to write the introduction for a Disneyland media guide for the 50th anniversary, since he had had
Okay.
so much connection with Walt and Disneyland through the years.
Right.
And so we were catching up at this lunch at Storytellers Cafe at the Grand Californian. And he was telling me that he was very excited because a book that he wrote called The Halloween Tree, that I was not familiar with, was being reissued that fall. And we got to talking, and I said, "Well, what's the book about?" And it's kind of Ray's story of how Halloween came about. It's kind of his
Correct.
idea of how Halloween came about. And predominantly in that story is a Halloween tree. And I said, "Well, what's a Halloween tree?" And he explained how it is in the story and all of that. And we got to talking. And then I think almost simultaneously, the light bulbs went off in our heads. And I said, "Well, what if we were able to put a Halloween tree in Disneyland for Halloween?" And it was just in 2005, 6, 7 is when Halloween was starting to really take off at Disneyland. And Ray got very, very excited. And the idea was to do a big, gnarly oak tree where the Christmas tree goes and have all the pumpkins dangling down and everything. And we got very excited about it. And Ray was also friends with my friend Howard Green up at the studio and Tony Baxter and a few others. So I ran and told Tony, and he got kind of enthused about it. But then we all found out that there were some other plans afoot for this giant Mickey pumpkin that was going to go
Right.
at Christmas Tree Point. And so our hopes were kind of dashed. And I said, "Gee, Tony, it's such a good idea." And he agreed. And then I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything about it until as we got closer to September, October. And Tony had taken the idea to Kim Irvine and the Imagineers based at Disneyland. And they had ID'd a tree in Frontierland. And then under the ruse of this launch party for Ray's redistributed book, The
Well,
Halloween
right.
Tree, we invited him to Club 33. And we get him up there and he talked and everything was great. And then as we were leaving, the park was closed at that point. As we were leaving, we take him towards Frontierland. He's like, "Well, why aren't we going towards Adventureland? We're leaving." And, "Oh, well, this is prettier. We're going to go this way." And as he rounded the corner, he saw this group of people standing there and they surprised him. And he was able to throw the switch on lighting the Halloween tree and he saw the plaque and everything. So it was a real great group effort to bring that about.
I love that. And of course,
Yeah.
if we could talk for a minute about the re-entering of the World of Disney, it's amazing.
Yeah, I was one of the stage managers, if you will, on that in 1986, and we shot that in the heat of summertime. I think it was July or August. And Michael was, he wasn't a TV personality, and he was filling in some very big shoes for Walt Disney. And you felt bad for Michael because he's the nicest guy in the world, but he's trying to learn his marks, learn his lines on like I think we did 6 or 8 different episodes. So we're shooting these back to back all over the lot, and and in between all this, he's getting phone calls and people are asking him to look at memos and look at this and can you do this and can come over here. I need to talk to you while he's trying to do all of this. And it was a really, really crazy long day, not just for him, but for everybody. And
Yeah.
I think we had to be at the studio at 7 a.m. and we wrapped. It was getting kind of ugly because we were getting towards the end of the day and we were losing the light. And he had to do an introduction to a film called Tiger Town that you might be familiar with.
Hmm.
And the director was like, "Michael, please get the lines right and hit your marks and everything." And Michael was really trying, but it had been such a long day, and he was trying all day long. And finally, he got it. And we were all exhausted. It was one of those really hot, smoggy days in the valley, which thankfully we don't have too many smoggy days anymore. But when we got back to Disneyland the next day, everybody that worked on that production had a buck slip from Michael. And they were all personalized, saying, "Thank you for being the stage manager. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing that." All personalized. When we got there, like at 9 or 10 o'clock the next morning, it was he didn't have to do that, you
Right.
know.
That's
So
great to hear.
and then yeah, and then through the years, just different interactions with him. Yeah, he was great. He was really great.
I love that. I love that. Well, let's keep going. I want to talk with Martha about something very personal and close to her heart here. If you'd be kind enough just to share with us a little bit about a personal chapter in your life. The Altadena fire was an event that touched hearts across the country when it happened, and ultimately nobody could understand than those who participated in it. And I know for a fact that you faced tremendous challenges during this time. If you'd be so kind to talk to us about those obstacles that you endured in that experience and how it shaped your life and perspective today.
Um, it happened on January the 7th. So January 5th and 6th, was home with my family, enjoying the day in a beautiful home.
Hmm.
On January 7, before the night was over, my home was gone.
I'm
We
so
got
sorry.
we got notified. The way that I found out about it, I was on the phone talking to another friend of mine, and her mother texted me and asking me if we were okay. And so I said to my friend, "Your mother just texted me, asking me if I'm okay. Is everything all right?" And then she sent me another text and said, "Turn to channel 4." And so my sister was laying on the couch in the family room, and I said, "Turn to channel 4." We turned to channel 4, and there was the fire. And so we stood there and we watched it for just a few minutes, and then we decided that we needed to start packing things. And the sad part about it is that you can only pack so much
Yeah.
because you don't have a lot of time. And the things that you want to get the most important thing.
Hmm.
And see, we had evacuated from our home 4 other times. And so when we were packing things, we just safely assumed that we would be back, because we had done this four
Right.
times already. So you're packing, we're packing all of our stuff in our cars, and the wind is so bad, and it's blowing in the opposite direction. So we thought everything was going to be fine. And then all of a sudden, it switched, and the wind was blowing in our direction, and that made the strength of the wind even worse. To the point when we were outside packing things into the car, we couldn't even hear each other talk.
Oh,
The sound of the wind was that bad. And then the lights went out, and everything was pitch black dark. You couldn't see anything. So, whatever we were able to get before the lights went out was great, because after that, you couldn't see anything. And so we left, we packed up our cars, and then we left, and we decided to go to the Jack in the Box down the hill and just park there, thinking that we would be coming back.
hmm.
And cars were coming off this hill like crazy. It was,
Wow.
and the streets were crowded. The freeway was crowded. It was just amazing. And then we found out later on that our house burned down, and we were able to kind of look a little bit, but we couldn't get on our street, and it was just horrible. The way that I explain it to people is that it's hell, because everything you have is gone. And we're not crying every day like we were, but every once in a while we do.
It hits.
And
That's understandable.
all the time you remember, I have, oh no, I don't. We lost it in the fire. I lost my computer. I lost my Legends Award. I lost all of my service awards. They're all gone because you can't carry all of them. I had my first delivery of books. I was only able to take 5 of them. The rest of them I lost.
Wow.
It was, however, we're going to be fine, and we are going to rebuild. And we're in the process now of talking to the builder and the architect about our house.
Awesome.
And it's going to be okay. It's a long process. It's a hard process. It's an area that we know nothing about. My
Hmm.
sister and my family, we know nothing about it, but we're learning a lot. But we're going to be fine soon. We're living in Montclair right now, which is 35 miles from Altadena, and we wish that we lived closer. But there were so many people doing the same thing, trying to find homes
Trying
to
to
live
find
in.
homes. Yeah.
It's really hard, but we're going to be fine.
Well, Godspeed to you in that. I'm sorry you and your family had to go through that. Tim did share with me that I believe Disney was trying to take care of you and replace. Obviously, it's not the originals, but I thought it was beautiful that Disney showed you the love of how much you meant to them to want to replace some of those for you. And
They
makes me proud
replaced
to be a Disney fan.
they replaced all of my service awards, and they replaced my Disney Legends Award.
God
Yes.
bless. I'm so glad that what the little things you could get, but our prayers are with you with that. Thank you for sharing that. Very, very, very touching.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Tim, I'll go over to you real quick. I want to talk to you about this, then I want to talk with you and Martha about a magical moment. I can't wait to hear that because through your both of your careers, it's got to be something incredible. Uh, your role in founding the D23 Club, creating its unique name, and producing so many unforgettable moments, from the early destination gatherings to the touching salute to Richard Sherman, which I saw live and was spectacular, has been truly iconic and foundational to where D23 is today. With all that
Hmm.
in mind, could you just take a moment and talk to us about a little bit about your vision behind some of those, and ultimately your perspective in the success of where it's come to?
Well, I wouldn't say my vision. There were a lot of people that helped
Okay.
establish D23. Dave Smith, Becky Klein, Stephen Clark, and then today it's in great hands with Michael Vargo and his team.
Yes.
Um, I helped put the foundational aspect of D23 together, and yeah, I came up with the name. The name, actually, I'll be honest with you, the name was Stephen asked me to come up with a name for this club, and I think I had a list of like 40 names, and it was down near the bottom, and he was like, "Yeah, I like that one," and I'm like, "Really?" And he was like, no, that's punchy. He goes, but Tim, what's it mean? And I said, well, it's the Disney D, and then 23. It's kind of a playoff on Club 33 maybe, but the 23 is the year the company was founded. Oh yeah, that's it. D23. Yeah, that's it. So that's how that came about. But yeah, just to see how it's grown and such. I mean, it's amazing what it has grown into. The D23 has just an incredible staff of stewards who have taken it on and just grown it like I don't. It's beyond people's wildest imaginations that we had back in what 2009.
Mhm.
You know, um, and in some instances we had to wait for technology to catch up with our ambitions because they're doing this thing now called I think it's called D23 Gold Theater,
Go theater.
and we wanted to do that back in 2009, but there was no technology for it. We had great
Oh,
plans. There's got to be a way to do that, so we had to wait, till
till it became there.
2025 to
Well,
make it happen. But yeah, the picture you're showing that show is very sweet. When Michael asked me to produce that, I was very touched, and everybody came into that with such heart, and I thought, how are we going to keep it all together in this show? And everybody did until the end. I was backstage most of the time, and near the end of the show, we did kind of a false finale, and everybody was singing "Let's Go Fly a Kite," and it was really fun because everybody on stage was swaying, and the
mhm.
audience was swaying, and it was a real sweet moment. And then after that, we showed a clip of Richard, and when that clip was over, uh,
Waterworks. Waterworks.
all the
Yeah.
waterworks happened. But
Yeah.
yeah, that certainly is a career milestone. That concert.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
What I kind of want to go to now is, and these are again, you guys, I hope you're enjoying all these pictures that they've shared with us that we're sharing along the way of their journey through time. Between the two of you, your remarkable careers with Disneyland and the Walt Disney Company, and, up to over a century of experience, which is incredible combined between with the two of you. With that incredible perspective, could you each
You
take
didn't
just a
have to
moment?
say that, Pete. You didn't. You
Well,
didn't have to emphasize that.
well,
You know.
you know what? It's incredible for this beautiful thing that started because Walt was smart enough to get knocked down in New York, get on a train, draw a picture of a mouse, and listen to his wife on what to do. That to me is where we're at today, and I love that factor. But could you and Martha go first? Just share just a thought or two of an amazing, unexpected, or magical experience you've had with your fans or encounters as you've been along your journey. I think you got to have one or two probably that maybe jump out at you, Martha.
There are so if you're talking about in the last year of becoming a legend, is that what
Yeah.
you're talking about?
For any part of your career that you want to talk about, I'd love to hear one or two.
Well, from one of our events that we did, in the china closet, and it was during the summertime, and the line on Main Street for the parade was lining up, and so they had the people to go through clothiers and go through the china closet and the camera shop to exit into the park.
Okay.
But I had an event going on in the china shop, so we had to kind of separate the two lines, and we were busy. There was this family that came in to this china closet, and the daughter was in a wheelchair, and she hadn't talked, and she was paralyzed in the
Hmm.
chair, and just it was it was very sad. But they wanted to bring her to Disneyland. That particular day, I had on a navy blue suit,
Okay.
and on one of my favorite Mickey Mouse pin, and it was a rhinestone silver pin that was on the lapel of my jacket. And so the family was walking in, and they were walking towards me
Hmm.
because they, to come through the shop. And they're walking towards me, and the little girl looked up and she looked at my pin, and she reached up and she said, Mickey Mouse. And the mother said that she hadn't spoken in a year.
Oh my word.
Everybody in that store was crying. They were blown
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
And so she came up, and I took my pin off and I put it on her for her to have. And that was what I call a Disney moment,
Oh,
making the
absolutely.
making the magic for someone else. And that was something that I will never forget, ever forget. And then as a tour guide, I was going through the park on a tour, and this little girl looked up and she saw me, and she told her mother, she said, Mommy, I want to be just like her. And I looked at the little girl, and she looked at me. What was amazing to me is that she was white. She wasn't black, and she wanted to be just like me. And do you know, years later, she came to Disneyland and got a job as a tour guide.
I love that
And I
story.
and I got to see her. She looked me up and found me, and I got to see her. I'm just so sorry that we didn't take a picture, but she became a tour guide.
I
And she
love it.
said again, I told my mother that I wanted to be just like you. And that's wonderful. Now,
That's beautiful.
becoming a Disney legend, oh my God. That is the magic of all magic moments. Becoming a Disney legend. I couldn't believe it. I had worked with so many of the legends, and I knew all about them, why they were legends and everything that they did. Not
Right.
that I not that I didn't think that I could be, but I just was something I never thought of. And
Right.
when I got that call to tell me that I was going to become a Disney legend, I was speechless, and I was screaming in the man's ear and Josh's ear, and I felt bad because I was screaming in his ear. So, and I said, I'm apologizing. He goes, No, 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 no. That's okay. That's all right. But it was just an amazing moment. And the comments that I'm getting from people about becoming a Disney legend is just unbelievable. I'm very grateful, very gracious, very humble, and I very much appreciate every bit of it.
I love hearing all that, Tim. I think through your friend with this amazing friendship with this amazing lady for 35 years, you've had nights where you're sitting with her and it's hard to top what she just said or did. Tim, I'm going to ask you to share a story, but I want to hear some good ones. But hers were pretty amazing there with all that. I know
No,
you've got to have some as well.
Martha's being a little, she's being a little humble because if you see any footage of Martha getting her Legends Award at the
Hmm.
Legends ceremony, if you watch it, I want you to take notice that I think it was the first recipient of the night was Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford.
And of course, he got great applause. And as you cited at the beginning of this podcast, look at the company she was in, right? But when Martha gave her speech, she got the longest, the rowdiest applause of anybody. And that was something to see. That was something to see.
That
You
was,
know.
I have seen that ceremony. I saw it at that time. And I will be honest, at that time, being an East Coaster and everything, I didn't know who Martha was. So I always like to go back and read about the people. And I remember that night sitting talking. My son was in here with me, and we were talking about how you can do anything you want in life if you believe. And I was using
Mhm.
some of the legends, and Martha is one of them. Of wow, look at this, Preston, you can do anything, which was awesome. So I love that. So.
Yeah, but you asked me about certain memories. You know, like Martha said, there's so many, but two that stick out actually. When we were prepping the 50th anniversary of Disneyland,
Hmm.
I convinced everybody that we needed to go to New York and we needed to do a press junket in New York. And Disneyland hadn't done something like that in years. So I can't remember the hotel we were in, but the Millennium or some kind of trendy hotel, and we had taken an entire penthouse suite and gutted it, and
Oh,
basically turned it into a museum and showcase of Disneyland. And
wow.
we actually helicoptered up or craned up a Dumbo ride vehicle and put it on the balcony 17 stories up, and we had a Mr. Lincoln head on the table that was animated and all kinds of crazy things. But one of the rooms had this enormous wall, and it told the story of Disney parks in little square photographs, like a storyboard. And it was pretty impressive, 50 years of Disney parks all over this wall. And we weren't sure how the kind of hardened New York media was going to react to all
Hmm.
this pixie dust crammed into this suite. And so the first group came in, and they were kind of impressed me, kind of New Yorkers as they are. And this woman, she was a real high-powered editor of a magazine, and she's looking at this big wall with all these pictures on it, and she's sitting there kind of like that. She's looking at it, and she's going down, and then she goes, and she points at something, and she says to me, is that is that It's a Small World? And I said, "Well, yes." And she just melted and said, "Oh my gosh, I was I was a little girl, 7 or 8, and I went to Disneyland with my dad after my parents got divorced, and he took me to Disneyland, and that's the first thing we did."
Wow.
And she just went from this kind of, impress me attitude to just reliving this memory.
Hmm.
And I thought, that's Disney magic. And I thought, well, that's never going to happen again. Well, it did, because the night that we previewed the 50th anniversary, I had a lot of, again, kind of hardened media types with me. And we were standing in front of the castle and we were watching the 50th anniversary fireworks show called Remember Dreams Come True, which was
Hmm.
narrated by Julie Andrews. And they'd all seen fireworks shows before, and they seemed like they kind of had to be there. But as they're watching the show, all of them just started becoming kids again. And at a certain point, I look over and they were all kind of concealing tears a little bit because it was so beautiful, so impressive. And I thought, yeah, if I could bottle this night, I would.
I love that.
So that's just two that stand out, but there are many, many, many others like
Yeah, I'm
Martha
sure through
said.
the career. I just wanted to share a couple with our audience because I thought it would be a great thing. And I think those were amazing. Thank you. One last thing I want to hit on, Tim, and then I want to talk about the book here and knock it out the box. I hope that everybody. I've seen the links being dropped by our moderators for how to get the book all throughout the night. There's multiple ways that we've offered out there to let you know how to get it. Please make sure you're hitting it over. This book is incredible. You're going to love it. Real quick, I want to talk about this, Tim. I'd be remiss if, as we sit down here today, if I didn't ask about something I know is a profound influence on you. Walt Disney's philosophy: stop talking, start doing. Could you share with us how that concept of creativity and on demand has shaped your own approach and perspective through your career?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't believe you can do like creativity on demand. You
Okay.
don't sit down, you don't tell somebody sit down and be creative. That
Okay.
just that doesn't happen. But what you need is you need somebody to kind of light a spark underneath you. And this whole concept of you know sitting around and analyzing and focus groups and all of this stuff, it just takes forever, and I have no patience for it. And it's like sometimes you just have to go with your gut.
Mhm.
And I kind of in the creativity realm, I kind of hip shoot from my hip, if you will. And that's the one thing I admired about Walt, because once he said we're going this way, everybody had to go that way. There
Right.
was not a committee or anything like that. And I admire that a great deal, because you know you do have to eventually just get up and do something. And
Right.
Marty Sklar used to say that one of the scariest things is a blank piece of paper, right?
Mhm.
Because it's blank. You have to fill it in, whether you're an artist or whether you're a writer. You have to do something, and it just doesn't happen on its own. And some people get paralyzed by it. And I've seen many people in brainstorms get paralyzed with the thought of, oh my gosh, everybody's looking at me. I'm going to say something stupid. Well, yeah, say something stupid. I've said a lot of stupid things through the years that have ended up being really fun ideas
Really
that have
good stuff.
happened. Even a smart ass aside that I said turned into the pool on Main Street for the Olympians. So yeah, you have to kind of be your own self starter, if you will,
Okay.
and not be paralyzed by this daunting thing called creativity.
Yeah, I agree. That's great. Martha, I know this is a side note, but just as I was sitting here thinking, um, with 50 years at Disney, before I go into the book, Walt's presence I always hear about people telling me about Walt's presence is still there and you could feel him. I obviously you started in 70 71. How much through your career did you feel the presence of Walt or Roy, or things that they have said or done, or things that they tried to do in your time?
I never met him.
I
He was
know.
gone before I
Yeah,
got there. But you know what? I think that he'll always be there. I think his spirit will always be there. And I especially think that his spirit is there very strongly in Candlelight, because that was his favorite. One of his favorites was Candlelight.
that's a great
And
call out.
I would when it didn't when during the day and it was kind of hot, but then at night it would get cold. I would always say that's Walt Disney. That's Walt doing that, because it was
I love
cold
that.
like a winter. And Christmas, you have on your coat and you listen to the candlelight speaker for the candlelight ceremony. Yeah, I
I
think that
love it.
his spirit is always there, but I really do think the spirit is there for
I love
candlelight.
that. I love it.
One thing that
Yeah, Tim.
I know Martha experienced this, but in the entertainment division, we used to call it Walt weather, because
Well,
if we were doing a special event or something like that, Martha knows from special events, if it were raining or if it was too windy or something, remarkably many times, not always, but many times, it would just clear up right before we were about to do something. And we would always say, that's Walt weather happening.
I love that. I love that. All right. Well, I want to get into the book because this book is incredible, and I hope that you've taken the time already to look at it,
You mean
read some
you
of
mean that book right there?
that.
That
Yeah,
book? That
that
one right there?
there you go. That book right there. I want to tell everybody a little bit about this. I pulled this recap and I thought it was spectacular when I read it. It's a magnificent must read, and not just for the Disney fans. I agree with that. It's a story of inspiration. It's a story of fortitude. It's a story of leadership through example, through your deeds and actions. Reading her book made me feel like she was holding my hand and we went through it together. An incredible memoir by an extraordinary woman. This book is truly a must read for all Disney fans and employees, as well as anyone looking to build a meaningful career and life. Martha inspires and charms with her anecdotes, personality, and experience. As a side note, I do have a friend who is currently working in Disney in the retail sections who read this book about 2 months ago and told me it was spectacular. That's a personal thing I have when I talked about interviewing you all. This is one of the best books I've read in a long time. I love Disney history. I read a lot of general nonfiction too, but this one must have been in a perfect spot for me because I loved it. I was never bored in any of it. I was genuinely sad when I finished it because I enjoyed it so much. Another comment was, while I'm always down for a good behind the scenes story on the happiest place on earth, I found myself really engaged with the author's journey growing through the 50s and 60s in South LA. Another person said this was a fantastic book. I had a conversation with Martha. I was having a conversation with Martha about her life and experience in Disneyland. Martha, I'll start with you here real quick, and then I'll go to Tim. When readers pick up your book, what is the one message or feeling you hope they carry with them after turning the last page?
For me, that book applies to everybody. There's not one person that doesn't have a challenge one way or the other.
Absolutely.
And you have to deal with it. I chose not to be screaming and hollering and yelling to solve my problems. I chose to handle them calmly.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody puts on their pants and panties the same way. Okay? Nobody's different. My parents taught me, it was four of us. I'm a twin, and I had two
Oh,
brothers.
okay. I didn't know that. Nice. Okay.
Yeah, she thinks she worked at Disneyland, but she didn't. Okay. But my parents taught us not to be afraid of anybody, and I wasn't. And it was obvious that I wasn't. And I'm not saying that to say that I was just mean and it's like, don't fool with me. That wasn't it. Because I don't believe in yelling. You said a word a few minutes ago that I am a strong believer in believing in you. This book, I want people to understand if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else is going to believe in you. And don't let people tell you what you can and cannot do when you know you can.
I
Do it.
love that. I love that.
If you have you're in a certain position and you're unhappy about it, one thing that you got to remember, you may be unhappy about it and you may not like it. But the thing is that you want to do good in that position because you don't want to look bad.
No,
And when it comes time for you to move, they're going to move you easier than you don't like it, you don't want to be there, and then you didn't do a good job. You're liable to get fired before you get another job. Okay, so take all of that into consideration. Choose your battles. Choose the battles that are going to make you look good, not make you look bad. And sometimes those battles that you don't say anything and you still win.
yep. Sometimes those are the best battles. You're absolutely right.
That's right. That is correct.
Absolutely
Believe in
right.
yourself and respect. Because if you respect each other, everything else falls in place.
I love
And I
that.
kind of and this book, it's an example of my career, my life, and the bad things that happened to me. I learned from them. I didn't harp on them to make it miserable for everybody. I harped on it to make it better for me and whoever else was around me.
Love
And
that.
when I would do my events, I would always tell my team that we respect each other, and if you have a problem, you got 15 minutes. And after that, you got to let it go because we don't have time to hover over things that are negative. You need to look at the positive side of it and let's go. I don't want to hear about it after 15 minutes. Okay,
Absolutely.
we got other things that we have to do.
We got other things you
So
got to
that
do.
and and it's just that togetherness and that everyone knew that I was a very proud black woman and I stood up for my own, but I stood up for others also. I don't
That's great.
appreciate it. I don't appreciate anybody being disrespectful and being mean or cruel to anyone, one another. And they all knew that. So it was like, here comes Martha, you don't want to do that. That's right. That's correct. Let's be positive and let's get this going.
Love it.
And
Love it. Tim, how
I
for you? How about?
even
Um,
had to deal with that Tim O'Day the same way, because he's like a little brother. He's like a little brother from another mother, the kind that you give a quarter to go get some ice cream. So I have like $10 worth of quarters right now that I'm not giving him because, oh my God. Oh,
Well, that's the perfect transition. Better than anything I could have done. Tim, just your thought. Anything you'd want people to message to take from the book?
Well, first of all, I want people to know that Martha and I wrote this book together. So it's not like Martha told me your story and I went off and wrote the book and it was done. It wasn't like that at all. Martha and I did well over 100 hours of interviews, and so Martha and I would talk. And one thing with Martha is she has a great memory. And initially, we were going in sequence of her life, and then she'd start to remember something that was earlier, or remember something that would go later in the book. And
Hmm.
after a while, it just became a mishmash, but it became a fun jigsaw puzzle to put together. So I would transcribe these talks, and then Martha would go through and say, "Well, I wouldn't really say that. I wouldn't say it that way, or I'd do this, do that." And so it was kind of a big jigsaw puzzle to put together. So it's Martha's story. Yeah, I put it in book form and things like that, but we literally wrote it together, which
I
is
love that.
really fun. Yeah, I think the message of the book, as Martha said, it's resilience. It's it's uh, it's a great American success story, is what it is, and it's a unique voice. Disney's never had a book like this before, um, and it's great that it's not coming from an executive or anything like that. It's Martha worked her way up through the ranks, and she has very very different and unique stories to tell that we haven't heard before. And I think people really like it. If you're looking for a glimpse behind the magic, you certainly get that. And if you're looking for new Disney stories, you certainly get that. And if you're looking for a really great dramatic story, you get that. And there's a lot of heart to it. There's a lot of fun. Uh, she dishes on people a little bit. I won't get into that now. And yeah, I think it's a fun read. I hope everybody likes it.
Well, if you're listening to us live, you're listening to us on the replay, or you're catching us on the podcast a little later, the links are all in the chat to buy this book directly. Also, the links are going to be posted in the description of this video. So they'll be there forever. You can click right to the description and go right to get this video or get this book. I highly encourage you, if you love Disney magic and you love inspiration, 100% grab this book. Martha, I'm going to jump down here for a second and go. I want to talk about
Peter,
this. Yes,
can I
ma'am.
just say one thing before you go to your next part? That
Yes,
when
ma'am.
they buy the book and read it, if they would do a review of the book on Amazon and or Goodread, we'd really appreciate it.
Please do a review, everybody. It helps the book tremendously. Nanny Pooh Bear says, I already put this book in my cart. Thank you, Nanny Pooh Bear. We
Uh,
appreciate you
well, thank
for
you.
doing that. We do that. Martha, your book documents a half a century of Disney magic. Through your journey, it reflects Walt's vision of how cast members can define themselves both on stage and off, selling a powerful precedent achievement through commitment and heart that you did. How do you hope the future generations of Disney cast members, as well as the readers of this book, because this is more than just a book just for cast members or just for Disney people. How do you hope, though, that the cast members will carry your legacy forward?
I actually, they're already doing it,
Okay.
and, and that I just want them. Everybody needs to be identified. Everybody needs to share, take care of each other, help each other,
Okay.
and as I said before, respect each other. And and respect is such a big thing that they do that, and they continue to believe in themselves and believe in what they're doing, and continue to do a good job.
That's a
And
great
I
message.
when I retired, I told them, I said, I'm going to ask you guys to do one thing for me, and that is don't let me down, and continue doing what you're doing because you all are great, and you all are amazing, and you all are wonderful, and you can do whatever you want. It's all up to you. And that I'm always here. I'm just a telephone call away. Not that I want to come back to work because I'm enjoying my retirement, but I'm here.
I love it. Well, resources like yourself, few and far between. I love these pictures. As I ask this next question for both of you, if you be kind enough, I'd love for you to share just a quick story from your early years at Disneyland, thinking back kind of to when you both first started in your time with the company. That captures the spirit and resilience that you've all carried through your career. Tim, I'll have you go first, then Martha can go. And for those watching live, I love this picture. There's a special thing, Martha, that I'll share with you about that picture of you with Roy and Minnie in just a minute. But Tim, would you go ahead?
Well, I think one of the themes of the book is that you kind of have to make your own future. So when I was coming up through the ranks, I I just kind of instinctively did that.
Hmm.
Uh, and as I said, I had mentors and I had people that believed in me, but I was never afraid to put out an idea or say, maybe we could do this, and then run with it. And that propelled me through the years, and it served me well. So, just don't be afraid. People get so timid sometimes, and
Great words.
everybody's afraid to be ridiculed or be told, "Oh, that's a dumb idea." There are a lot of dumb ideas. A lot. I've come up with a lot of stupid ideas, but out of those stupid ideas, there's always one gem here or there. So, it's all about creating your own future. You have to be your own best advocate, and I think that's what came out of my early years. That look, nobody's going to do it for you. You've got to do it on your own.
I love that. I love that. Okay. Martha, how about you?
Well, when I first started working at Disneyland, when I went down to apply for a job, I went to the employment office there on the property, and I went inside, and cast member came up to the counter and said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yes, I'd like to get a job, apply for a job." And he looked at me and said, "There ain't no jobs here for you."
Oh my God.
And so I was crushed. And so I went back and got in the car and I left and I went back to school. And then a couple of weeks later, my girlfriend Rita told me that Disney was coming out to the campus to recruit students to be cast members. And I said, "They told me they didn't have no job for me. I'm not going to apply for another job." So she says, "Martha, you have to." I went to class. So when I came back from class, Rita comes running into my dorm. She says, "You got to change your clothes and go and apply for a job." And I said, "Rita, what did I tell you? I'm not going to apply for a job." And so I don't have a problem with confrontation. So her and I got into a friendly confrontation. Well, she won, okay? So
And we're all
so I,
glad she did.
she won. And so I changed clothes and I went down and I applied for a job. And so I originally was hired as a dish up, but that's not what I went in actually worked for.
Right.
While I was standing there, someone came up and asked me if I wanted to be a tour guide, and I didn't know what that was. I had no idea what a tour guide was. And I said, I knew all about food because my family was in the catering business. My
Okay.
godmother was a caterer in Monica, and she did parties for all the celebrities. So I knew all about the food situation. Nothing bad about the food, but it wasn't my thing. Okay. And so I said yes. And so they made arrangements for me to go in and see Cicely. And so I went in to see her and interview with her. And I was talking to her, and she said, "Honey, can you speak a little louder?" And I said, "I'm not going to do this to you now." But I said in a very loud voice, "I have two brothers. One is 6'5" and one is 6'4". They weigh over 200 pounds. I have to yell at them all the time. And she said, "You got the job."
I love it.
I didn't let that person that told me that he didn't have a job for me, that happened then, but I didn't carry it with me.
Through the
I
career.
let, that's right, I let it go. And
Yeah,
so I hired in as a job. But
I
then
love that.
the other sad thing, but it didn't hold me back because I knew it wouldn't have been what she wanted. The day that I was supposed to start working at Disneyland, we had my mother's funeral. And so she knew that I was going to be a tour guide, but she never saw me in my costume. My daddy did, but not my mother. And so I didn't let that stop me either because I knew that my mother would want me to go on, and I did. And I
Absolutely.
wish I wish that my mother and father were here today to see what I've accomplished because they would be really proud today.
I agree with you. This picture here in the left hand corner with Roy and Minnie and the statue, the bench statue that they have, is that the one from Florida or is that a replica or a sister one that's in Disneyland? Where was that picture taken?
It's a
It's
sister
that-
one at the studio.
Okay, it's the sister one at the studio. So as I was putting this interview together, Martha, um, I've had a long run. Um, this Friday for me is 6 years to the date that
Wow.
I collapsed and went into a coma, and
oh my
and
goodness.
yeah, I was in a hospital for just under 500 days. I lost my left hand and both of my legs to save my life. The interesting thing about that is the last thing that I did before I came home here and I collapsed, I stood in front of that exact one in Magic Kingdom. It was sitting in the hub right by the flag with Roy's back to the castle. And I looked at Roy and Minnie and I said, Roy, I'll see you soon, my friend. I looked up at the castle. I said, Walt, I'll see you soon. And it's the last thing that I remember before I went into a coma. So that's
Oh my
when I saw this picture of you and looking at this Friday being the anniversary of that, I looked at it as God telling me, you're really interviewing the right people this week. And I can definitely see that I did. So as a final question tonight, before I highlight the books again here, I just wanted to ask you both a quick question here is after everything you've experienced with your combined time with Disney and every award you've earned and every acknowledgement you've received and every interaction you've shared, and there's so many more that we could even talk about tonight. Martha, if you could start me, what does the word Disney magic mean to you today?
I am so honored and so happy to be a part of those words because one thing that I enjoyed so much doing is making the Disney magic happen for someone else. And I was able to create that Disney magic. And it just gives me great pleasure and great honor to be able to say that. And everything that I did in my 50 years at the Walt Disney Company and at
Hmm.
Disneyland, I would do it all over again.
That's
And
awesome.
I had a, I think at on my speech that I gave for the Legends Award, my ending was, "I'm just an
I'm just
ordinary black
everyone. Yes.
from Central Los Angeles that had
Yep.
an amazing career at the Walt Disney Company,
Yep.
and I will do it all over again."
I feel like I should stand up and applause like they did that night for you with hearing that again. Tim, how about you for Disney Magic for you? Your career has been outstanding.
Ah, goodness, that's really hard. Disney Magic to me is, the other night, my wife and I watched the live action Lilo and Stitch,
Okay.
and I really really liked it. I thought it was really fun, and I think that film kind of is one of the latest examples of Disney magic. So how do you quantify magic? Well, it's fun and it makes you smile and it takes you out of your everyday, troubles. And that happens at the parks. It happens when you watch a film. It happens on many occasions. And I think that's the essence of Disney magic. You know Disney magic when you feel it or you see
Hmm.
it. But it's also kind of an intangible thing too. You
Yeah.
can't pick it up, you can't hold it, uh, you know, uh, but you know it when it happens. And there are those moments when the snow is falling on Main Street at Christmas time, the fireworks are going off, or you see the Main Street Electrical Parade, in the distance coming down the street. Those are touches of Disney magic. But there's also, like Martha said, that moment in the china closet with the little girl and things,
Right.
or my experience with the hard New York critics and editors. It's this something that just happens, and you can't force it, you can't make it happen.
Mm-mm.
It just kind of does.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, it's something special.
Yeah, I had my simple one that comes to me a lot is there's a cast member. His name is Daniel, and he's always out in front of Tony's restaurant in Magic Kingdom.
Mhm.
He's a morning cast member, and he and I've gotten to know each other over time. Just me being in the parks and doing some streaming and some stuff and everything. When I go by on my scooter, doesn't matter what he's doing, if he's with a guest or not, he'll actually say, "Pardon me 1 second," and he'll just point at me and say, "Pete," as I'm going by. And I'm like, that's Disney magic for somebody to care enough, because I'm nobody in the big picture, but I'm somebody to him, and that makes me touch. I want to bring to everybody and
Yeah.
remind everybody, guys, you can get this book. We've been dropping the link all night over on Amazon. You can have it at your house within a day. It's on a special. I think it's still on the special. When I pulled this the other day, it's just going to be an incredible read for you of inspiration and magic. You can find it over on Goodreads as well. Again, if you do buy it, please give that 5-star effect and let them know that this is a book that you love and you want others to know about it. Barnes and Noble also has it. I know we have, from doing our interviews that we do with so many of different Disney authors on here, we have a lot of people that ask about Barnes and Noble. You can also get it on the ebooks over there, I believe, and the regular, so you can find that. I'd be remiss if I didn't highlight, Tim has done 2 amazing books of his own, and one of these days I'm going to get Tim back here to also talk about his books for a few minutes. But he's done a portrait of Walt Disney World, 50 years, the most magical place on earth. That link is being dropped in the chat now. I want to get this. I want to get my hands on it, read this, because I love history, and it looks awesome. And then Tim has also done Disneyland Then, Now, and Forever. That was back in 2005. Again, both available on Instagram. Instagram, both available on Amazon and through these right now. You can tell it's been a long week for me. Too much medicine,
Yeah.
for too much cold medicine. As we always finish up here, we like to finish with a final thought, and I always allow my guests to go first on the final thought. It can be anything that you want to say or throw out there. And Martha, I'll go to you first.
My final thought is that if you get the book, I hope that you enjoy it. And I hope that you, like I said, take out Black Woman's Journey. The book applies to everybody. And I hope that you can hear my voice and hear my support and hear my joy and my um, resilient hard work, and know that you can do the same thing.
I love that.
Enjoy.
I love that. Thank you, Tim.
Well, how do I top Martha B? How do I do that? Uh, I don't know. The final thought is, it's this book was written for everybody, as Martha said, and I just think there's a real good message in it. It's not your typical memoir either. It's you know uh, it covers an era of Disney history that you don't often hear about.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
always hear about the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. We don't hear about the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. So, if you're younger and you've grown up in those eras, you can relate to a lot of things. And it's not just a book about Disneyland either. It is not. Martha, as she said, she worked down at Walt Disney World and other places and such. So it has a lot of broad appeal. But um, yeah, I think everybody just should try it out and read it.
I agree. I couldn't say that better. For my final thought, I'll throw a couple things out there. First, I'll say, after being able to research for this interview, but to spend my time here with you tonight, it is my honor to sit with you. Martha, your story is an inspiration for everyone. I agree. Your story is an inspiration of fortitude, of empowerment, of teaching those that you don't quit. You keep believing in what you can do, that you can aspire and attain any goal you want to do, and you can do it with kindness. You can do it with kindness and be effective. So I thank you for that, for your story and sharing that with us, and more importantly, coming on here tonight. Tim, as I did more presentation for you and prep for you for this interview, again, I was shocked at how many things that you touched and participated in. For the combination of you both, after tonight, I can't think of telling the Disney story without hearing your names be a part of it. You've made my channel better coming on here tonight. For those of you out there, you know that we do a lot for the military charity that we worked with. And Tim was kind enough to say that he was going to send me a signed copy from him and Martha that we could put into the military charity to try to raise money for soldiers that are less fortunate. We raised $13,000 for that charity this past year in 2025, and I look forward to trying to match that next year. I thank you for your generosity. And finally, I'll finish with this. For me, it's this Disney community that has kept me and helped me to, come out of having last rites read to me 3 times to where I sit tonight. I never would have imagined that I would get to talk to a Disney legend. You're my first Disney legend. I couldn't be more excited. And to have Tim come into my life and reach out to me. Tim, what do you know? I know I'm getting a little emotional here, but you're the first person to reach out to me and say, hey, I'm interested in your show. Would you like to talk to us? And I will forever be grateful for that. So thank you so much. I'll ask you to hang tight backstage. I want to say goodbye to the crowd real quick, and then I'll be right back and we can talk backstage. Everybody say goodnight to Tim and Martha. I want to remind everybody.
No, Pete.
Well,
Say goodnight to Martha B.
Martha B. Yes, Martha B.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, God, Kim, you're going to get me in trouble. Listen, guys, I miss Jen being with us tonight. I hope she gets better. I always think our shows are better when she's here with me. So thoughts for her to get better. We've got coming in just 2 weeks here, back. Jason Ratner is coming. If you don't know his artwork, he is one of the most specialized Disney fine artists. His focus on the Disney castles that he does, his focus on Sorcerer Mickey, which I absolutely love, is spectacular. He's a family man. He is all about faith and hustle and working hard and believing in yourself. And that's why I love Jason Ratner. I hope you'll be back here. That will be on the 30th of the month, I believe, is when we have that lined up. Yes, that's when we have it. So please put it on your plan list to come back. Thank you, everybody, for being here and having a little dialogue with us tonight. I think this was a spectacular show and goes down in some of those that will touch your heart, make you laugh, make you tear up. And at the end of the day, you just want to find out more about them. It's real easy to do. Check them out on their books that they have available. Read about them, leave an update. I love it. We'll see you next time on Disney Dialogues, everybody.